Good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Bridges of Light. Hope you're doing fine. Let's wait for a few connection to be there. Okay, people are starting to connect. Thanks for being with me this evening. As you can see from the banner that's scrolling down, we're going to be speaking about how being open-hearted is very important in the healing process. And this is quite a new science issue. So we're going to discuss something very peculiar, very innovative, but at the same time, very important. For those that do not know me and that connect today for the first time, my name is Laura De Stefano. I'm Italian. I'm a numerologist. I love numbers. I deal with numbers and I compose numerological frameworks for people. And I've been speaking a lot about numbers here on Bridges of Light. I'm also crazy about quantum physics, and we are going to speak, in fact, about it during our live streaming tonight, because that is quite involved into the subject we're going to deal with. And so I also keep courses on quantum physics, about healing, about quantum physics techniques that can really help us to heal our body, but also to solve our problems. And actually, I started all my holistic career, let's put it this way, as I was a ballerina when I was young, and so I'm of course fond of dancing. I'm also, I lead some groups with a special technique that is called the dance of the soul. And it's a technique that of course involves free movement, okay, to distract the mind and let our subconscious speak. And we use the psychic symbols. That means that while our subconscious speaks, we get some symbols from it, and we're going to, I am actually defining the meanings of those symbols to you, and they are all private and very personal messages that actually the other dimensions are giving to you. I'll give you a very little example while we wait a few more time to let people connect with us. For example, once we were working on the energy of the moon. The energy of the moon actually stands for the relationship with our mother, with our feminine part, and with the artistic gifts that we have, we all own. We were working on the relationship with our mother, and in the visualization that people were supposed to do, all the people were supposed to receive a gift from their mother. They did not know that that gift meant what was actually left, what was valuable in the relationship between them and their mother. And then a girl received a white pearl. Whenever in the symbolic meditations we receive something like rocks, pearls, diamonds, they all stand for one meaning. This is something reliable. This is something you can trust. This is something you can use to lean on and to base your life onto. This is concrete. This is real. This girl, this woman that actually received that pearl, she received actually a pearl bracelet. So there were many pearls. Actually had a very bad relationship with her mother. Before starting everything, she said, it was better if I hadn't had mother. So she was really negative about that relationship. And then carrying on in the visualization, she realized that actually her mother, although they really talked very little to each other, sometimes her mother, just looking at her, could really perceive what was going through her soul. And sometimes she could really tell her daughter that word, that sentence, that advice that was really helpful. Sometimes it was very, quite a resolutive um, advice. So her mother, here and there, used to give her pearls that were like good advices she could rely on. So, what the dance of the soul does is that it gives you the possibility to see what you haven't seen so far. And we change when we see things differently from the way we have seen them until a few minutes ago. Things are always the same in life. What changes is the way we relate to them, the way we perceive them, we feel them, we live them. And so I cannot say that the relationship between that woman and her mother became fine immediately, or they didn't made up immediately, but they sure she actually started to relate to her mother differently. And this is the power of the soul of the dance. And I'm very happy because in July we're going to work in a wood in the southern part of Italy, and we're going to dance in that wood. Okay, so let's start with the subject we're dealing with today. Healing. What's healing, first of all? Or better, you can say, what is a disease? What is a disease? Okay, according to quantum physics, there is what we call a basic informational field. It's like the matrix of everything. It's a place that actually it's a no place and it stands nowhere, but everywhere at the same time, where you can find anything that happened in the present, in the past, that is that may happen in the future. Everything is contained into this quantum informational field, and it is defined by a frequency, and each frequency is defined by numbers, a sequence of a number sequence. Okay, that quantum information field stands for how everything should be to work perfectly. So, for example, there is the first cell, the cell of our body, the first cell. So, how cells should be in order for us to have perfect cells. Okay, there is the matrix of the perfect health. There is the matrix of the perfect relationship between people. There is a matrix of everything. So we start from there. We come from the quantum informational field. We all, it's like the informational field is a whole. It relates to the concept of wholeness. And at the same time, like a big bang, okay, it exploded. And then we are part of this quantum information field. But we do not exactly relate the same way to the quantum information field. Otherwise, we would be all perfectly healthy and with no problems at all in our life. So what actually happens is that we differentiate from the quantum informational field. We differentiate from the matrix. Why? Why does that happen? Okay. The quantum information field contains the informations of how everything should be to be perfect. Well, because science says, for example, there is a DNA, a big part of our DNA, 95% of our DNA, that is useless. And it's called the garbage DNA. Now, I ask you a question. Is it possible for our body to develop something something very important like DNA, 95% of which is of no use, that doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, now what has been just found out by doctors, scientists, quantum physics researchers is that 95% of our DNA, what it's been so far called garbage DNA, has a very important rule. In fact, it develops what are called the wormholes or the Einstein-Rosen bridges towards another dimension. So that 95% of DNA is used to connect us with the other dimension, to connect with the quantum information field. So it has very, very great, deep importance. Why then we didn't get the correct informations from the quantum information field, since there is, so much of our DNA connected to it? First of all, just to be in praise of science, I tell you that Laura Mersini-Houghton is the one that published a study on this on DNA, of this 95% of DNA in developing these wormholes. Wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges are like they speak about the possibility to bend time and space. Okay, we think of time and space as linear. Instead, a wormhole is the possibility for time and space to bend. So actually, these 2 points that are very far one from the other get in a perfect connection simultaneously at the same time. We are not in a perfect situation with our health or in our life generally. We have problems, we have to deal with many people, maybe sometimes we have economic problems, we have relationship issues, we have study issues, we have job issues, a lot of things happen in our life. So what does happen? Why don't we relate to the information quantum field so that everything is perfect in our life? Well, because we stop those channels. We do put some garbage in those channels. And what are those garbages? Well, anytime we think of something negative, we do stop that flow from the quantum information field to us. That happens because, so we could say that any disharmonic situation, any illness, any problem happens when we disconnect somehow from the quantum informational field. The quantum informational field is also what has been called so far the memory of the universe, the consciousness of the universe, God and the soul for religions, for example. Okay, it's a place of no place, so it's nowhere, but at the same time it's everywhere, where there is the quantum information for everything. So why, let's go back to the first question, why aren't we then in an aligned situation with our quantum information field? Well, as I said, because that depends very much on our thoughts. Anytime we go through traumas, bad traumatic situations, disharmonies, lack of love, lack of happiness, we disaligned from the quantum information field. And of course, it's quite hard to get back centered and focused onto the quantum information field. So what we can do is to look into ourselves and understand what are the recurring thoughts that we have that actually stop the flow from the informational field to us. When we speak about negative thoughts, what happens is that we do create those thoughts and we do create those blocks. Because we have non-spiritual emotions, and that stops the flow through the 95% of our what was so-called garbage DNA. Now, we have to consider that for the healing process, there are 3 different steps to be considered. The first one is the consciousness of the illness, which means to be aware, to be conscious of what happens in our life and that we actually have an illness, a disease. So there is a diagnosis. I take care of that diagnosis. I actually accept the diagnosis and I accept the responsibility for my illness, which doesn't mean to feel guilty. Guilty feelings have nothing to do with responsibility. Responsibility is a word that comes from Latin, and it's responsum habilitas, the ability to respond to a situation. So actually, we have to experiment our personal power. The second step towards the healing process is that we do have to look for the reason for that illness to happen, illness or problem, okay? Anything that happens in our life has a meaning, has a reason for being happening. Nothing happens just by chance. Anything is either provoked by us or the universe provokes it so that we have to acknowledge something, that we have to raise our consciousness towards something. So we are going in the second step towards the healing process to look for the reason for that situation to happen in my life. And we have to be very careful during that second step not to go into mental issues, because it's very easy to find reasons outside of ourselves instead of inside of ourselves. There are always inner reasons for things to happen in our life. Okay, unconscious, emotional, personal reasons for things to happen in our life. Also, we know that what I said, that we have to be very careful for that, because the conscious mind cannot actually understand what a quantum leap is. We can't really talk to our body with our mind. We can't say, for example, if we want to lose weight, we can't just say to our body, okay, now lose weight. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. To lose weight, we have to go through a process involving self-esteem, the desire and the wish to be better in our life, and to focus on a purpose, which of course may imply a diet or a certain style of life, also be sportive in our life, to do sport and everything, and to feel that anytime you do that, that's something that you do for yourself. It's the beginning of loving yourself. The third step is the one that is so-called the energetic self-healing. And when that occurs, it's a state of beatitude and of grace that happens to us in a very, very immediate and very small minute. Not even a minute, a second. It's a second in which we feel that we are part of that wholeness I was talking about, that we belong to everything and everything belongs to us, and that we are all absolutely related. This means that if I experience that, I have such a deep instinctively feeling of love that gets really close to the unconditional love. And from that moment in which I have that feeling, that special moment, it derives to me such a well-being situation, such a deep feeling of beatitude that I do realign all my wormholes to the quantum informational field. And that allows the information from the informational quantum field to go back to me, to flow back to me. And that allows me to go over my problem, whether physical, an illness, a disease, whether practical in my life. This is what healing means for science. So, the issue today is, why is open heart is so important into this process? As I said before, when we close down, we shut the channels of communication between us and the quantum informational field, it's because we develop non-spiritual emotions, and they do block the information, the flow of information. When we think, if we do think positive things, we create positive thoughts. Of course, vice versa, in case of negative thoughts. And when we open our heart, or when we try to open our heart, what do? We walk towards the situation of the attitude that I was speaking of before. This means that we keep on going toward the possibility to be in a beatitude state all the time. Our heart is really the nucleus, is in the middle of all the electromagnetic fields of our body, and the electromagnetic field communicates with our organs. Many researchers demonstrated that the cardiac field is not just limited to the heart, to our physical heart, but we could measure some cardiac field that are 2.5 meters extended from the body, from the human body. So we do radiate. When we speak about radiating, there is really an electromagnetic field that radiates from our heart. And of course, depending on the heart, the situation of our heart, it radiates differently, releasing different sorts of frequencies. So the garbage DNA has the possibility to put us back into contact with the quantum informational field and to let us receive the correct information back to for our well-being or for the solution of any problem. So what can we do actually for to receive that state of grace, to be back into a healing situation? We have to work for sure on our thoughts, on our beliefs, and mostly we have to forgive. Forgiving is really a powerful action, because it doesn't mean that I forgive the others. We never forgive the others. We forgive ourselves. When we are mad for something, we are mad at us. Actually, when we don't forgive someone, we actually don't forgive us. The other person, the one we're mad at, or the one we think we can't forgive, is just there as to show us actually that we are mad or that we don't forgive. But she has he has nothing to do with our non-forgiving. To forgive does not mean, okay, I'll go over that situation and that situation was fine. Okay, no. Forgiving does not mean to say that what happened was fine to me. Forgiving means that I do not leave the power to that situation to make me suffer longer. So I release myself from a pain. This is what forgiving is. It's something that I do not because the other deserve it, but because I deserve peace into my heart. When we don't forgive, we actually stop the flow of energy and also the information from the quantum informational field. So, in order to receive the possibility to heal, we have to think that in life, actually, there are only two fundamental feelings: love and fear. Love, when we are in a state of love, when we feel love, then we produce a substance that is very useful for the pineal gland that is called the ANPin, the natriuretic atrial hormone. Instead, fear produces another substance that is ET1, while the hormone produced by love helps the work of the pineal gland, which is to precede and to take care of our evolution, physical and spiritual. This is what the pineal gland does. The ET1 that is produced by fear actually inhibits the work of the pineal gland. So they work absolutely differently. Among these two feelings, we deal for our health. And when we do heal, as I said before, what is healing? What is healing? What do we reach when we heal? We reach the possibility for our soul to project its focus, its purpose in our life. And so we realize to be the creator of our reality, and we experiment the true connection with the information of quantum physics. And that is the moment when our brain produces another molecule. The molecule, it's called the beatitude molecule, which is called anandamide. That molecule is the one that makes us feel as we're in heaven, as if we were in heaven. And this is what happens when we heal. But we do want to heal. Sometimes, of course, if we think it rationally, we always want to solve our problems. We always want to heal from something physically. But that might not be what our subconscious wants. Because we get rid of a situation, we solve a problem only when that problem is not functional for us anymore, for our life and for our evolution anymore. So that's when we are ready to release that problem, to let it go and go over it. So although that might seem like, such a very heavy concept and controversial one also as well, maybe people don't want to heal sometimes because the situation they created with their disease prevent them from something anyhow, or even an attitude they have. For example, an old lady that during the weekend talks to her daughter and says, "Oh, wow, you're going to leave me alone this weekend again. You're going to go to the seaside and I'm going to be staying here alone by myself." What is this lady doing? She's manipulating. She's using the guilty feeling of her daughter to manipulate. And she's playing victim, okay? And she will play victim as long as the daughter sometimes will go, okay, I'll stay with you. I won't go to the seaside and I'll stay with you. So her purpose has been obtained, has been reached. So she won't let go of this attitude until it will work. Now, I've been speaking about an attitude, but it's exactly the same thing for our diseases. Okay? They are functional to something. Maybe they're just functional, They are functional to help us understand what's going on in our life, to help us understand we have a problem, we haven't solved it. Okay? And we're ready to get over it, over the situation, only if we actually take care of the problem, decide to go over it the way I told you. So, to be open hearted, we have to go over our negative, non spiritual emotions. This means that we have to take into account how energies work. If I have a negative thought, I really create, what is called a thought form. A thought form is, for those people that see the energies, is something negative, black. They have very bad shapes. They might have like needles, or they might seem like spiders. They're quite dark, okay? And it depends on what I think. I do release that sort of shape form, okay? Sorry, shape thought. And as I said before, the people that see the energy see me going around with that form connected to me by a thread, a very small and little thread. If I have a negative thought and I find someone, I cross by someone by chance that has exactly the same negative thought, what happens is that my thought, negative thoughts attracts one to the other. Okay? And the biggest one eats up the smallest one. So if I meet someone that has a negative form of thought that is bigger and wider and older than mine, she just swallows mine. So for a few hours, maybe a few days, I'll feel relieved. But since I haven't healed the problem within myself, I'll start thinking that over and over and over, and I will recreate that form thought. Instead, the other person, the one with that swallowed actually my form thought, will get home and will be very nasty, will behave very nasty. Form thoughts, when they become too big, they detach from the person and they start going around by themselves. They get live, they're brought to life by themselves this way. And they start to hang around finding other similar energy similar to them, to eat them up. That's why the best thing to do to be protected by the energies is always to think of our energy. And so to have high frequencies. How do we get rid of bad forms, of this bad shape form thought? We can do it in two different ways. One way is sometimes they really possess a person. They go through a person. That person does something very nasty. And that way, that form thought collapses and disappears. And that's, of course, the worst way. In fact, you remember that when people go through one of those moments, those blackouts, they don't remember anything of what happened. When they have a raptus, they really go through a blackout. They don't remember anything. Actually, they've been possessed by an energy. Or we can dissolve bad energies, sending love. Just sending love. Our energy, our normal energy, can be felt for the length of 5 kilometers from where we are. So actually, we do leave an energetical trace for quite a wide space around us. But when we are in the energy of love, our energy can be felt for 100 kilometers from us. So we are definitely much more powerful when we are into that situation of a loving feeling. The positive energies do not work like the negative energies, not at all. They do very different work. They don't eat up each other, otherwise, they wouldn't be positive energies. But they connect one to each other. They put their strength together. And when you see all the positive energies getting in touch to each other, it's like looking up at those pictures of the earth that has been seen from very far above at night, and you see all the lights on the planet. It's beautiful. And what do the positive energy do? They correct, they make up for all our mistakes. They take care of the planets, and they really repair all that we have ruined in the planet. So they have quite an importance. They, of course, work all together, which means that they feel energy, the positive energy is one, and we all develop it. And when we feel the connection with each other and with the universe, and we start taking care of ourselves, of the others, and of our planet as if it was ours, as if everything was related, everybody was related, then we are in that possibility of feeling that moment of beatitude, that love, and to open up our heart so that that natriuretic hormone can be developed. And as I said before, that hormone goes to the pineal gland to help us healing all our physical problems, but also to solve also our practical problems. So to be open-hearted means to give us the possibility to be in that beatitude state, grace state. And that is something that when you feel it, you don't want to give it up. You want to keep it. It's so beautiful and so strong, so peaceful, that you do keep working to go back there, to collect it back there. If you don't, and if you say that you can't because of the problem that you have at that moment, the actual problem you're facing in your life in that moment, that's an excuse. I'm sorry, but that is just an excuse. It's an excuse to say that you don't want to feel it. Maybe you don't because your problems help us to have the others be compassionate to you. And you need that, you want it. You want the attention of the others, maybe. There might be many different reasons for us not to go towards that direction and keep instead grab onto our problems. And maybe we have a very nice attitude outwards, while instead of us, we have such a grief and we are so angry and we don't want to show it because we want to be the good ones and the victims. Now, for our evolution, well, what is evolution? What is the purpose of evolution? We often talk about the fact that we do have to go through many reincarnations on the Earth, but it's not the only planet. Let's speak about the Earth. In order to evolve. Why? What for? What does this mean? We have to evolve to become unconditional love, to become a pure energy, the energy of unconditional love. This is the purpose of the evolution. And I will also tell you one very nice thing. We all have to become pure love. No one will be ever left behind. So, in order to experiment love, in order to understand the importance of love, in order to lead our life towards being open-hearted, we have to play both roles of victim and the one that actually acts toward the victim. Okay, we have to play both roles, both roles. So one life will be playing victim, another life will be playing the other role, the opposite role. And because we have to learn the importance of everything, we have to learn what it means to be in one situation or another. So we have to experiment both. And maybe some of you did some past life regressions, and we always go to see all the lives where things happened to us, others did something to us, where we've been victims. It's very hard because it means that we're going to be very brave if we go into the life where we've been playing the other part, the part of the bad guy, the part of the executioner, actually. So there is a victim and there is an executioner. And we have to play both roles. So this is the explanation of how important it is, our feelings towards the healing process. Being open-hearted means to give us the possibility to heal and to live in a state of grace. And scientifically, as I explained you, we do release that hormone that helps our pineal gland to heal, to get over our disease. But before that, to summarize a little bit, we have to understand the reasons why that disease occurs in our life, or why that problems occurs into our life. Nothing happens by chance. We always, anything that happens outside starts from our inside. We have provoked what has happened into our life out of us. So it's no chance. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens because we have provoked it. Okay, so now sciences, neurosciences, epigenetic, they all speak a lot about these issues, and they all take care a lot about the feelings that a person has and the attitude a person has towards the healing process. Many people do not accept the diagnosis, for example. They don't want to be ill. There are three possibilities. When a doctor tells a patient the diagnosis, either that person gets very scared, and that of course is very negative, but that may happen. Either it pretends like if nothing happened, okay, and that might be good at the very beginning because it might be helpful not to fall into fear, not to be so scared, but not to be too frightened to accept the situation. But at the same time, if that keeps on being, that means that the person doesn't want to face the reality, doesn't want to face the truth. Of course, the third attitude is to take into account what's going on and to help yourself with a positive attitude. Very rarely that can happen immediately, because of course when something gets diagnosed to you, you do have fear, you do have resistance toward the possibility to have that. And so you close your heart once more, because fear, as we've seen, closes our heart. And then you have to go through the second step, which is understanding that you do have a disease and that you do have personal power. And so you have to activate to find the reason for that to happen in order to get over it. And once you find the reason, even unconsciously, then the healing process starts. And if you find the reason within yourself, which means to really accept your feelings, for example, all the tumors or cancers diagnosis, the doctors that deal with cancers, they all say that cancers start from a trauma the person had to live, had to go through. And they had to restrain their feelings. They couldn't either express their anger, express their fear, cry enough. They didn't let them go through this, or they didn't accept what was going on, what was happening. So they removed somehow the problem, but the problem is something alive. And so emotions, all the emotions related to the problems go into your body and they do something to you. And that is what happened. So to understand the reason of cancer means to understand how deep the trauma was for you and what sort of relationship with the emotions you have and how deeply actually you let yourself live those emotions and how deeply you actually forgot those emotions. And you have to take them out of your unconscious, to take them out of your soul and express them. That's the only way to heal. And once you do that, and you accept yourself as a human being, because we are human beings, we are spiritual souls, but we came on the earth to have a human experience, and the human experience is made by emotions. So we have to accept our emotions, and our challenge on the earth is to go through the emotions in order to evolve, in order to be able to handle our emotions in a better way. But first of all, we have to face them. We have to go through them. When we do that, we are taking care of ourselves. And that's the first step towards loving ourselves. And if we keep going, then we can even experiment the unconditional love. And then we open up our heart. And that's the moment when the pineal gland starts releasing a natriuretic hormone, and that it helps the body to get over our sickness. Okay, my dear friends. So, thank you. And I hope this will be an explanation for those that will listen to it later, maybe that you could easily follow. It's an explanation involving, as I said, neuroscience, epigenetic, and quantum physics. And the only thing I can say now to greet you and to wish you good evening is keep being open-hearted for a happy life, for the happiest life you can ever have, to reach the grace, to reach beatitude. I wish you to be open-hearted all the time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.